Who are you? Where am I? What is this place? Congratulations, sir. You've won a free safari tour of the Backrooms and have been no-clipped out of reality at no cost to yourself to claim your prize. That's cool and all, but I'm diabetic and need to get my insulin. This creature is known as Entity 116. Entity 116, aka the Dentists, are humanoids made out of what looks like an amalgamation of exposed rotting flesh, teeth, jaw, and gum tissue. Basically, just imagine that your entire skin was made out of your mouth, and that's what we're dealing with. While this might sound morbid, just think of it as their entire body being a smile. Yeah, that doesn't help for me either, honestly makes it kinda worse. They leave a trail of slimy mucus secreted from their gum tissue, which causes a horrific fatal oral disease if touched. Dentists are reported to smell like the bodies that are not in my cellar. These creatures are incredibly hostile, following their prey, pinning them down, and stealing their teeth and gums while they're still conscious. These creatures are usually very slow, but be wary as they have a huge burst of speed when a prey item gets within pouncing distance. Next up are the Combine, a big old centipede made out of human parts. They usually have human hair running down the length of their body, but I shaved this one because it looks cute that way. Their legs look like double-bent human fingers tipped with chitinous photoreceptors to snuffle around their surroundings. The weird finger things can also vomit up digestive pouches for digestive purposes. Like many species, they can drop parts of their body when in danger and grow them back later. If you feel threatened, remember to rip off all of your own limbs. It's very distracting. They're scavengers that eat mold or decaying biological materials, so they don't usually attack people. Keyword, usually. It's not opposed to going for someone if they're asleep, so just be wary of where you rest your head. How the hell does someone sleep in the Backrooms? This entity is a strange combination of small mollusk-like creatures that all function as one unit. They give birth to young by shooting babies out of their legs. Like most methods of animal reproduction, this lands in the sweet spot between gross and beautiful. Some colonies of survivors in the Backrooms have tamed these creatures like pets. I'm not allowed to go to Petco no more because the employee thought it was an innuendo when I kept asking for the finger centipede. Slightly more dangerous is the Smiler. The fuck are you looking at? The Smiler is a mysterious entity that stalks wanderers in the Backrooms. They're often seen from a distance, hiding in only the darkest areas, like a pervert. They stand out from the blackness with their glowing white eyes and radiant teeth bent into a wicked smile. They're attracted to light and will attempt to destroy any light source they come across. They're usually solitary hunters, but sometimes will travel in packs. As per their Tinder bio, their favorite method of dispatching a victim is via asphyxiation.
Hey yo, bitch, you like it rough? I choke harder than plastic rings on a sea turtle.
Victims of a Smiler attack can be identified by swelling or damage around the throat, deep nail impressions, and unhealthy romantic habits. If the person they are stalking makes it into a bright area, they will retreat into the distance and stalk the wanderer from that distance. Some have reported Smiler stalkings for as long as one human gestation period. They relish in torturing the wanderers they stalk, hence that stupid fucking grin plastered on its face. Most of their body remains hidden in the darkness, so we don't really know what these things look like other than the face. Some think it's a ghost, some think it's a snaky thing, some think it's just one giant limb for strangulation. You're not scary. It's actually pretty pathetic to pick on humans. I remember you from reform school, Jeremy. These blob creatures are called bone thieves. They have toad-like bumpy yellow skin that's impervious to damage. They're mostly stationary creatures that hunt by replicating human noises and language to lure victims close enough to strike. It's theorized that they're able to recreate almost any voice using an extremely developed larynx and vocal cords. No one knows how people become boneless when they get near the bone thieves, but they know it's an extremely fast and pretty clean process, because they end up looking like a plastic CVS bag made out of human skin. No hole, no blood, no nothing but a body puddle. There are only two entities powerful enough to be capable of this mysterious trickery. Their mouths open extremely wide to reveal a set of eyes in their throats. They have two holes on the sides of their head where normal eyes would be, but those just leak some strange blue fluid that coats their entire body. There's no gums or teeth inside the gullet, just an empty black soulless void in that set of beady little eyes. After all the victim's bones are gone, the bone thieves distend their jaws and swallow the boneless human nugget whole, and then don't eat for a while. In a similar vein to the bone thieves are the skin stealers. Skin stealers are entities that feed on human skin and flesh. It wears the skins of its past victims as a disguise. It's also capable of mimicking human speech, but it's not capable of understanding it. This thing has clear blood, so if you're not sure if it's a skin stealer or a person, stab it. If it bleeds clear and sprints away, it's a skin stealer. If it bleeds red, hysterically screams, cries, and stops moving, it's probably a human. Skin stealers have huge white sunken eyes. When the skin stealer murderlates a victim, it wears the skin for about about a day. After a period of around 24 hours, the skin will be digested through the surface of the skin stealer's real skin, and the skin stealer will enter a docile state cause is no longer hangry. Hey, you look like that guy from earlier.
Has no one checked if I'm just really drunk and looking for the bathroom?
This is the Stalker. Stalkers target lonely wanderers in the backrooms. They're masterful at disguising their bodies and voices to look like that of loved ones, friends, or other survivors, similar to the skills of their digital cousin, the catfisher. The longer you have gone without human contact, the more susceptible you are to a stalker's illusions and manipulations. A stalker's true form is a tall, sinewy, skeletal humanoid with tightly wrapped white leathery skin and 2 giant red eyes. It has long floppy fingers and toes that end in claws. Its mere presence induces nostalgia and dreams of the person's life before the backrooms. They like to season the meat of their human victims with betrayal, by acting as a loved one before striking to gain the trust of their prey. They will betray you in whatever manner makes you feel the worst based on what they've learned about you personally during the time that you thought you knew them. While this sounds bad, I know humans who operate the exact same way. They've been reported to work together and coordinate to break down an entire society of survivors. To feed, it uses a massive proboscis which comes out of its face to inject digestive enzymes into the human body. It takes a few days to digest the victim, so it'll hide it in the closet until its internal organs have putrefied into a black sludge, so it can slurp it out of your now juice box of a body. This liquid entity is not water. Well, it's not water. Well, it is not water, but it's more than just not water. It's a sentient, self-aware liquid with an extensive knowledge of the backrooms. Drinking the not water connects you to the entity's consciousness, as well as connecting you psychically to everyone who has drank the not water. This is both useful and dangerous because it gives you useful information, but it also drives you 100% butt insane. To demonstrate, we have an ethically sourced human test subject right here.
I just peed on this COVID test. I'm definitely pregnant.
I wonder if anyone has ever been murdered with the binging with Radish Branch chef knife.
You shouldn't have the thighs of a pregnant 15-year-old.
I subsist solely on bugs that I scrounge up from the ground.
If you end up drinking it, the entity will communicate with you, but you might not be able to hear it clearly over the shrieking voice of everyone else who drank it. This entity can control your mind, but usually it doesn't bother with anything like that. A good way to fix a not water-afflicted brain is by removing it. This liquid is pee, and it is mine. A less threatening and actually helpful backrooms liquid is almond water. Almond water is the main source of hydration and survival in the backrooms. It can be found in bottles, cartons, cans, flowing through some of the pipes into water fountains on certain levels, even those weird squishy toys, you know the ones that have that hole that runs through the middle. What are those called again?
A jellyfish snake wiggler. It is literally in the name. That is not just me. I'm not the perverted one. You're the perverted one. You give fleshlights to your children.
There's rarely any label or indication that it's almond water, so you gotta figure that out on your own. This liquid can be identified by a vanilla rose smell, which is important because there's other stuff that you can drink that'll just kill you or worse. Go by the rhyme. If it's vanilla and rose, trust your nose. If it's any other smell, prepare yourself for hell. It's reported to taste like a sweet vanilla mint rose water. I don't know why the fuck they call it almond water. Almond water can be used as a curative for many diseases native to the backrooms. For example, it can prevent human beings from turning into a wretch. Humans can turn into a wretch when they succumb to a lack of food, water, and sleep and become vulnerable to the poorly understood wretch cycle. Wretches are completely insane zombie-like creatures that have inhuman strength and hunt humans in packs using rudimentary handmade weapons. If you don't want to become one of these, drink your goddamn almond water. Moving on to a slightly less moist but much more dangerous topic, this is carpet moss. I mean, you can't see it, but trust me, it's there. It's located on level 0 and looks almost indistinguishable to the damp carpet that covers the floor of the level, except for a thin layer of clear gelatinous adhesive slime on its surface. Carpet moss is an entity that behaves similarly to a carnivorous plant. It remains dormant, seeping moisture from the carpet until a wanderer stumbles onto it. Acting like an extremely sticky glue trap, it usually adheres to the feet of the wanderer first, who is then stuck on the carpet moss. The moss then releases what are theorized to be psychoactive spores into the air. When inhaled, it causes intense fear and disorientation, usually causing the wanderer to scramble and lose their balance, falling onto the carpet moss, sealing their fate. Strangely, when the victim has the entirety of its body stuck to the surface, the moss will exude another unknown psychoactive to calm the victim, and some survivors who escape this report intense euphoria and even an aphrodisiac state. This can be so powerful that some survivors sprint back onto the moss and attack anyone who tries to take them away. The carpet moss will then release a powerful digestive enzyme enzyme that dissolves everything except the bones of the victim. A telltale sign that a room in level 0 has a carpet moss infestation is that there are large scattered collections of mucus-laden bones. Who would have guessed that having a bunch of complete human skeletons on the floor would be considered a red flag? Nah, I'm just kidding, I made the carpet moss up completely, but I had you though, didn't I? Today's Backrooms mania-induced psychotic episode is on Level Fun. Level Fun is similar to that of Level 0 with its damp piss yellow carpets and walls, but it has some key differences. Level Fun basically looks like one of those laser tag birthday celebration rooms, but if you took the uncanny valley factor and dialed it up to 11. You know, plastic chairs, table in the middle, creepy off-brand wall decals, cake that some kid has obviously just been shoving into his mouth with his bare hands that just also happens to be made out of human flesh, the whole 9 yards. Wandering around this smells almost as weird as Chuck E. Cheese's party room level are the partygoers. Partygoers are intelligent and aggressive humanoid creatures that used to be human. They are tall, sinewy, with long, smooth, yellowish, leathery skin. In place of an eyes and mouth, they have bloodied empty sockets and crudely carved smiles, but they can still somehow see and vocalize. They use balloons as distractions and almond water as bait, so if something is weird, that's probably a good indication that it's weird. They can be outrun fairly easily because they can sprint for more than 20 seconds. Actually, I'm not sure if everybody watching this video can sprint for longer than 20 seconds, so who knows, maybe you'll be okay. You'll know if you're spotted because you'll begin to hear a distorted nursery rhyme. The song is actually a cognitohazard and results in whoever hearing it becoming extremely tired and numb to everything. So basically, it won't affect most of us in the slightest. The partygoers are skilled at no-clipping themselves or others, so you often don't even know if you've changed levels into their domain. Partygoers use strategy in hunting, where some will chase from behind as the others barricade off exits with the furniture and wait around corners of doorways to ambush prey. The ends of the partygoers' arms have holes that contain retractable fishhook-like claws that they use to latch onto their prey. After breaking the skin, the partygoer transfers a venom to the victim and then retreats like a pussy. The process will first take place in the affected area. You can cure this in the early stages via amputation or using super almond water. If you're wondering what super almond water is, it's the result of intense oversaturation and that kid that always has to top your story with a better made-up story. The skin will begin to become leathery around the marks and spread across the surface of the skin. Blood flow to the hands will stop and they will go numb, turn purple, and fall off. The radius and ulna bones will dissolve and fuse in an incredibly painful process, rendering both arms immobile temporarily. Over the next few days, the victim will develop what looks like bruises that quickly turn into pustules. These will soon pop when the hooks have grown enough from the newly formed compound bone to pierce the surface, revealing a sore-like hole that the hooks can retract into. The victim's hair and face will seemingly begin to melt away like a plastic CVS bag that I left in my friend's oven. The venom degrades any memory of the victim's past life. They basically go full batch at this point and carve eyes and a mouth and begin receiving telepathic communications from the party host that the infector partygoer belonged to. Party hosts are weird fat man-baby fetus creatures with a party hat crudely stapled onto their scalp. They're completely immobile with shriveled human eyes, and they're often sitting at a table with a human flesh cake with a candle in it. Because of their defenselessness physically, they're often guarded by partygoers. Oh yeah, they telepathically communicate with the partygoers and can see through their eyes. Happy birthday, little guy. Thanks for inviting me. I got you a gift. Today's fever dream of a Backrooms cartoon is about level relativity. This level has the same pee-stained carpeting and walls as level 0, but because of the additional anomalous properties, it can hardly be called similar. Level relativity, also known as level, is a series of stairs and hallways arranged in a seemingly impossible structure that resembles the painting Relativity by M.C. Escher. The laws of nature do not apply on this level the same way it does in your dimension. Here, everything is relative, including gravity. Each stairway can be used by wanderers who belong to 2 different gravity sources. This creates interesting phenomena, such as in the top stairway, where 2 inhabitants use the same stairway in the same direction on the same side, but each using a different face of each step. Thus, one descends the stairway as the other climbs it, even while moving in the same direction, nearly side by side. In other stairways, wanderers are climbing the stairs upside down, but based on their own gravity source, they are climbing normally. If you jump high enough, you can actually change gravity fields and fall down onto other stairs. While this is dangerous and has resulted in a lot of unconventional neck bone orientations for idiots, it can be used strategically to get to some previously inaccessible areas on this level and to escape some of the less physically capable entities. Each field seems to affect more than just gravity, as there have been reported distortions in things such as visual perspective, time, and sexual preferences. If two wanderers in two planes with significantly different timescales are looking at one another, one would appear to be moving as if they were in a time lapse, and vice versa, they look like they were in slow motion. Level Relativity is home to several entities, one of which being memory worms. Memory worms live on multiple different levels. They're massive bloated wiggly worms with large teeth that spiral down the length of their entire body. These worms have mind-boggling metaphysical abilities. They hunt based on creating illusions relative to the victim's memories. If you see a big slimy worm and then your reality suddenly dissolves and you're watching your old favorite TV show for the first time in your old house getting nostalgic oral from your ex, thanks. They eat their prey whole, digest it partially, and then give birth to a ton of little wormlings made out of the remains. Like most methods of reproduction, what you would consider gross, this species considers so arousing they'd just pay someone to watch. These wormlings can be smashed up and boiled with almond water to create memory juice. Be careful when collecting these creatures, as too many wormling bites can lead to amnesia and even a vegetative state. Memory juice just gets you high as balls. Maybe it has something to do with your memory. I don't fucking remember. People say it helps you accept your situation in the backrooms and reduce your stress. I know lots of people who do this. You don't have to live in the backrooms to need to drink something to get high as balls to accept your situation. It's just called alcoholism. Wanderers report that it's not addictive and they can stop anytime they want, but also don't check the wiki. An entity that can only be found in Level Relativity are the staircase mollusks. They may be hard to see at first as they are camouflaged amongst the mucus-colored walls and floors. They have thick shells that resemble the wallpaper and a muscular foot like a snail that has a slimy texture similar to the damp semen-crusted carpet. They can flatten out against a wall to disguise themselves and then pop into the air like those weird pop things that iDub made a giant one of that you can get as a reward for not biting the dentists more than 3 times. They can stick to any surface and are incredibly skilled at navigating gravity fields while hunting. They often launch full speed at a wanderer, switching gravity fields in the middle, subsequently accelerating their attack, shattering the wanderer's bones on impact with their thick chitinous shell. Afterwards, the mollusk will sit on top of the victim, its muscular foot oozing a digestive enzyme for a few hours before leaving behind only a spooky skeleton. Oh yeah, by the way, I made this whole fucking level up because the Backrooms has like 3 cannons at this point, and I was like, fuck it, let's make it 4. I mean, like, memory worms and the worm juice are actually real. They're from the wiki, and I plagiarized a little part of this from MC Escher's Relativity Wikipedia page. But the rest, I was just pulling stuff out of my ass. I had you though, didn't I? What would you do if your friend snorted what you thought was a regular old fleshipede and then wouldn't shut up about how you should really change your lifestyle and fill your kidney with insect eggs? This guy looks like he's struggling. Maybe we should give him a hand. Huh? And what do you mean I shouldn't empty my entire bank account to throw this tropical telepathic bird a blow-and-blow party? These are neural isopods, arthropod-like creatures that resemble large jungle centipedes. Instead of a chitinous interior, it has a soft, fleshy, slime-covered exterior to help it slide through tight spaces. They wait in the crevices of the backrooms and latch onto the lower leg of a wanderer before climbing up and attempting to enter the body through an orifice. They prefer to enter the body through the nose, ears, or mouth as it is closer to the brain and it's more easily accessible, although they have been reported to go in the anuses, urethras, eat through eyes, flesh, or bone to get to the brain. The neural isopod uses electric stimulation in order to manipulate the host's neurons, controlling its thought and movement. It brings its host to a nest where a swarm of neural isopods lay eggs inside the body, and in a few days the eggs will hatch and the victim will be slowly eaten alive as a living nursery to grow the babies. They grow up so fast. An adult neural isopod can control you to believe that you're in full control of your actions while it's puppeteering you, and you will willingly go to the nest. On the other end of the spectrum, juvenile neural isopods are only adept enough to roughly control the physical movements of the human body, so they basically make you walk like a stroke victim drunk Frankenstein towards your death while you completely are aware and terrified as to what is happening. While this is reversible, it takes more than just some almond water to do it. In fact, the creature will just drink the almond water from the victim's bloodstream, making the parasite stronger. You need to fully remove this isopod to the brain, and oftentimes attempts in this just end in full total accidental lobotomy. We got one out of Swampus' set here, and I'm glad he's still alive, but he hasn't been quite the same.
I wanna go to the fair.
Clumps are nightmarish, pulsating, slithery, formless mounds of arms, legs, and other appendages. Oh god, I'm gonna come. They move by using their haphazardly positioned legs to drag their writhing, fat, grub-like mass across the moist, carpeted floor. While they move slowly when a wanderer is not in sight, this can be dangerously misleading, as they can accelerate to over 20 miles per hour in the blink of an eye. When they see a wanderer, they barrel full speed towards them before extending a long hidden arm that can accost a prey at them from over 20 feet away. It will then pull the victim into the massive limbs where they undergo a gruesome, excruciating amalgamation process.
Which really isn't that bad at all.
This is a rabbit. Hot Topic Cyclops cousin of raving rabbits typically grow to the size of an adult man. This is not the maximum, however, because like some species of reptile, the only growth limit they have is what their nutrition can support. With lots of fresh wanderers, this boy can grow big and strong to almost 16 feet or 5 meters tall.
Yes, he will. Yes, he will.
Rabbits have 3 legs and a single body structured like a tripod. They have jagged, bumpy exoskeletons looking similar to rotted wood. Their eyes are designed by Neuralink and are able to shine a light into the darkness to help them see. Their mouth has a human-like jaw, but all the teeth inside are sharp canines. Their exoskeletons are made of a 2-inch thick crystalline structure that is much more durable than a regular exoskeletal chitin. This effectively makes the rabbit bulletproof, fire-resistant, good at active listening. Basically, this thing is a cockroach. It doesn't matter if you have a nuke. These creatures are incredibly aggressive, mauling survivors and fully eating them in a matter of minutes, not even leaving a bone behind. This is Jerry. Jerry is what I live for. Jerry is everything. Jerry is love. Jerry is life. Jerry is a small bird that looks suspiciously similar to a parrot. It can control the mind of the person holding it, making it say things like Jerry is everything. All hail Jerry. I'm not gay, but I'd let Jerry peg me. Those controlled by Jerry eventually go missing shortly afterwards, with the parrot eventually reappearing on a seemingly random level to find a new host. Giving Jerry sunflower seeds or almond water will tame Jerry, allowing you to pick him up safely. This will only work with the person who fed Jerry, and anyone else who holds Jerry will be affected normally. With this knowledge, you can weaponize Jerry and use him to your advantage by basically creating a missing person bird trap to get rid of anybody you hate. Let's play a game, huh? One of these I made up on my own, and the other 3 are from the fandom page. Leave a comment which one you thought I made up below. If you get it right, I'll let you live. Some of you have to be expecting that I'm lying to you at this point. I'll staple a dead snake to your forehead. Today's fever dream of a Backrooms cartoon is about the Shady Gray. The Shady Gray, spelled like an emo kid's online alias, is a collection of incredibly unstable sublevels that are all in black and white and affected by a unique glitching distortion effect. There are 5 documented levels in this collection. There are 3 more, but no one knows what happens to the documents or the wanderers that recorded it. The first sublevel is level 00. This level is a jungle affected by the glitchy black and white phenomena that affects all Shady Gray levels. The trees glitch within one another and all animals appear distorted. Touching these distorted things will lead to death by full-body distortion and organ evisceration, but on the bright side, this level has a bestiality fatality rate of 100%. The level has a 12-hour day-night cycle, however, it is extremely different from the normal 24-hour cycle within the front rooms. Instead of the sun slowly moving across the sky and then crossing the horizon, the sky instantly changes from day to night, or vice versa, without any warning. During the day, there are no entities, but at night they become as numerous as the colonies of bacteria in the swamp ass accumulating in your taint as you watch this. The entities in question are unknown due to the night state of level 0 being completely devoid of any light. The only confirmed entity in this section are the Howlers, because people only know what they sound like, and no one knows what the hell they look like. Every time the clock hits 12, it shifts from day to night. To proceed to the next level, all you gotta do is take a branch and draw a pentagram into the mud for some reason. I don't know, dude. I mean, that's what the wiki says. Actually, no, I don't like that. There's no reason to include satanic influence in the Backrooms. It's a hat on top of the additional 9 hats it's already wearing. You just no clip out. What do you mean this isn't the bathrooms? Level 1-1 is an extremely unstable, old-timey manor. Much of the furniture is glitchy and distorted, and again, touching it results in full-body distortion and organ evisceration. There is one entity on this level known as the Landlord, who looks like a tall, slender man from the 50s in a fedora and business suit, except he has the same glitching as the furniture in the level. Actually, no, fuck it, he's just literally Slenderman. If he sees you, he will approach you slowly. Attempting to run will result in all doors closing and locking
parking before you can exit. The landlord will continue to approach, claiming you are trespassing to watch him on the toilet. Contact with the landlord results in death in the same fashion as when one touches the furniture. Humans usually either perish when he gets to them or break down one of the doors leading to level 2-2. Level 2-2 is a large, thick forest covered in snow. Despite being covered in snow, this level is actually incredibly hot, so much so that wanderers often die of heat stroke or heat syncope.
I don't feel so good.
Because everything in this level is tinted black and white, sunburns are very hard to see forming, and people often get severe blisters in a matter of minutes if not in the shade. There is one type of rarely seen entity on this level known as the Fallen Angels. They are humanoids with large black wings and horns. They all look to be fatally injured and will mostly just ignore wanderers, but if provoked they will clip wanderers into level 3-3. If you for some reason want to provoke them, simply point out how cliche their entire design is and they'll get super defensive and immediately resort to violence. Level 3-3 is an infinite ocean filled with anomalous time-altering clocks. The ocean consists of an incredibly toxic mix of distilled water, mercury, and motor oil. There are 3 different types of clocks floating on the surface of this ocean: analog clocks, digital clocks, and grandfather clocks, each with unique anomalous properties. Analog clocks will clip you into level 4-4, digital clocks will freeze someone in time, usually resulting in them just drowning, and grandfather clocks either age the person into an incredibly elderly person or a fetus, which usually also just results in drowning. There are boats on this level filled with faceless, fat, sunburned tourist guys in grayed out Hawaiian shirts, and islands on this level as well, all seemingly having the same blistering weather conditions as level 2-2. Level 4-4 is an expansive gothic city where the glitching of the Shady Gray becomes incredibly severe. Some buildings are upside down, some are clipped inside of each other, some are floating. All the buildings are locked, but like the skull of those who are unsubscribed, they can easily be busted into. This is basically asking for death though, as the buildings are infested with smilers, skin stealers, and a hostile entity known as the Mangled. The Mangled are skinless human heads that move with a series of spider-like limbs constructed from human bones and muscle tissue. The ends of their limbs are incredibly sharp, and they dig the nubbins into the surface to allow them to climb amongst the skyscrapers. Put your guess as to whether or not they're friendly in the comments below. That's not how the wiki describes them. The streets aren't much better, as you'll probably end up curb stomped and robbed by the violent gangs of faceless people that roam the alleys. The entire level is overcast by the thick gray clouds, making it extremely dark. This makes the level doubly dangerous if you have seasonal affective disorder, aka the depressive disorder that some pessimistic asshole named Sad. No clipping here brings you to the last documented level of the Shady Gray, Lost Hope. Lost Hope is the level with the edgelordiest name. Sounds like a goddamn XXXTentacion wannabe. This is when the stability of the Shady Gray completely disappears. This level resembles the concrete pipe-filled maintenance hallways of level 2, except the walls are distorted and wobbling with great intensity. This level is almost entirely undocumented, as anyone who touches the surface here has their body ripped apart at the atomic level. The strong friendship bonds keeping their atoms together slowly breaking apart until their entire body is reduced to nothing but floating particles. This process resembles intense radiation damage, except I'm gonna say that it's worse because for spooky. Bursters are small, vaguely humanoid, quadruped-like creatures that scurry around the halls of the Backrooms. I like to call them pimple chimps. Their back legs are distended to look more similar to a canine than that of a human crawling. The burster's skin is covered in lesions and pustules that are filled to the brim and leaking with acidic fluid. These creatures will stay in the fetal position until another living being happens across them, at which point they will pop their weird, gross back pimples all over the victim, spraying their entire body with incredibly potent acid, dissolving them in a matter of minutes to hours. The burster will wait for the victim to succumb to their wounds out of laziness before consuming them. They can also damage themselves with the acid, and like that guy who drowned in his own cum, many of the bursters succumb to their own fluids. Surgeons appear to be a door in a wall that is indistinguishable from the rest of the surroundings unless you are on the arm side. Oh yeah, there's like a buttload of arms on one side. These arms will lie dormant until a wanderer, animal, or other entity passes through the doorway. The arms will then spring to life and restrain the wanderer by the wrists, ankles, and neck before slicing off the extremities and sometimes the head of the victim with their scalpel-like professionally done acrylic nails. The arms will then skillfully rearrange and sew the victim Frankenstein reanimator style back together in a new strange form. Occasionally, the surgeon will add additional body parts from a slit in the fleshy door frame, which I like to call the extremity hole. It's theorized that this extremitory repository is filled with pieces of former victims left over. In some scenarios, surgeons will combine wanderers with animals or entity parts, forming an entirely new abomination. They are very creative. The victim will somehow always survive, maintaining locomotion abilities in all of their limbs, including any new additional ones. While locomotion is technically possible, it results in extreme agony for the first several days after bodily reconstruction. The surgeon transforms the victim into one of a variety of forms, sometimes quadrupedal, sometimes just a leg and a head, sometimes they shuffle the functions of every hole in your face. Pretty random. Nah, I'm just kidding. I made this up because I'm obsessed with the movie Tusk and people didn't vote for me to cover it. I had you though, didn't I? Crawlers are the collective name for all those affected by an anomalous species of fungus native to the Backrooms. This fungus is visually similar to something I'm not gonna try to pronounce and just put it on screen. A strain of cordyceps fungi which zombifies insects, and currently has a lawsuit levied against it by the Last of Us development team. This fungus growth is extremely aggressive, and the infection is present in abundance on many levels. The crawler fungus can only spread to humans through liquids such as saliva, although it can spread to animals and insects via contact. It thrives in warm, dark, damp places like backrooms carpets or that weird space between your crotch and your thigh. This infection will progress, with the mold covering more and more of the organism until it's completely engulfed in it. As the infection progresses, the entity will become more and more aggressive and attempt to spread the infection through biting. In the final stages of infection, victims will have every bodily fluid in their system saturated with spores. And before you weirdos ask, yes, that fluid too, and this does technically mean that it is an STD. Ever hear of the Numbed Man? The Numbed Man knows as much about you as you do about it. If you learn his weaknesses, he learns yours. If you learn his strengths, he learns yours. If you learn what he jerks off to, the Numbed Man is a weak humanoid entity who can only be sensed by those he senses. For this reason, he has destroyed his own senses. He tore out his eyes in order to blind himself. He mangled his nose so that he couldn't smell. He punctured his eardrums to become deaf. He burned off his skin so that he could no longer feel touch. I mean, I guess that's pretty metal. He has no way to sense anyone nearby, and thus they cannot sense him either. This keeps him safe. The Numbed Man is not bound by any floor or physical barriers, but again, you basically have to overpower a confused, disoriented, senseless old blind man. Only thing is he floats and can walk through walls. See, I learned about him before you did, so he's gotta go through me to get to you. Floating and phasing through objects isn't really considered a power in my species. You actually get special parking if you can't do it. Last time I fought a blind and deaf man, I won. It wasn't even a competition. I absolutely fucking obliterated him. 2 for 2. Hounds are another quadruped humanoid-like creature with warped and distended limbs to make this style of locomotion more easy. These creatures hatch from goopy, weird frog eggs. They have long, tangled, greasy black basement dweller hair growing from their head and an extremely large mouth laden with sharp teeth. Oh yeah, also claws to match because they know how to coordinate an outfit. Despite looking like an anorexic, bedridden, dying old man, they are quite powerful and quick. They'll pretty much maul anything that isn't, or sometimes is, another hound on sight until the resulting small red pile either stops moving and or existing. Although, if you just stare these things directly in the eye, their brain kinda shuts down. See, my whole head is an eye, so as long as I'm just like generally facing them, they're gone. There's nothing behind these eyes. Not a single thought. Head empty. Death moths are giant edgy emo moths that inhabit the backrooms. Male death moths are small, kinda dumb, and sometimes even friendly. He a good boy. You're my friend now. Female hot topic butterflies are several feet in wingspan, can spit acid at great speeds, and will attempt to turn anything that moves into a pile of sputtering mush. Like anglerfish, this species is big on that horror movie type femdom stuff. Not much is known about the goth moth other than it looks pretty similar to a normal moth and it kills people who try to study it. Like regular moths, edgy moths are attracted to light. While this is bad if you hear fluttering of wings nearby and you have a flashlight, you could also just put a torch in front of a wood chipper and solve all your problems. Next up is something designed to be completely unpronounceable, obviously based on H.P. Lovecraft type spelling. I'm just gonna call it an arachnid because that's the closest reference creature y'all have. This Backrooms arachnid is a large spider-like arthropod with 16 legs. While these beings beings certainly aren't benign, they are slow-moving and haven't been observed actively pursuing prey items. As long as you don't stand directly under it like the Backrooms equivalent of a dodo bird that humans tend to be, you'll probably be fine. Speaking of, these entities generally stay hidden on the ceiling, creating ball-shaped webs and filling them with sedative secretions that, while unable to completely paralyze a victim, is enough to greatly dampen a person's thinking capability. It then hangs these balls on the ceiling with additional webbing. It continues to do this until there is prey nearby, at which point it will drop a ball. The effect of the depressant starts and the victim will start to feel drowsy, happy, and confused like they faced a blunt. It then proceeds to drop all of the balls at once, making the target completely unresponsive to any outside stimuli, like a guy passed out in his own vomit. The spider boy then drops down to its prey and proceeds to inject digestive enzymes into the victim before slurping out the resulting slurry. After feeding, it returns to the ceiling and hibernates before setting up its traps once again. Its secretion can be refined into painkillers and other useful drugs. But in the pure state, it induces a psychoactive state that some describe as a psychedelic opiate effect. It can be eaten, refined and smoked, even boofed. I dissolved some of it into a vape juice and got it into a concert once. Next up is the Cerebrospinal Leech. Like most leeches, the Cerebrospinal Leech is a blood-sucking parasite. But what else does it suck? Cerebrospinal fluid. It's in the name. Are you stupid? Sometimes I think you just watch these videos because you can't read. Latching on lower points of the spine for a few hours can lead to paralysis below where the leech is latched on. But if left for long enough, it can lead to complete paralysis and death by paralyzing the respiratory system. Despite their pleas to end the pain, we have managed to keep a victim in this state alive on a respirator. Latching directly onto the brain is often lethal in a matter of minutes, as the leech will drain the skull of cerebrospinal fluid ravenously, leaving the victim's brain like a wrung-out sponge. As this happens, the victim's cognitive function will decline rapidly before they just seize up and fall over dead. Sometimes the leech will suck with such force that the skull makes sickening crunches as it crumples up like an empty Capri Sun bag. A lot of people have been asking if we're from the Backrooms, or if they can try to put us on the fandom or the wiki. I have two things to say to that. One, I'm not from the Backrooms, I just like hanging out here, it's a vibe. Two, I'll say it once, I've said it a million times, I'm not an SCP, I'm not a creepypasta, I'm not a Backrooms entity, I just like to pick on them. Why is everyone asking who I am? You shouldn't ask questions that you really don't want the answer to. So how about you just sit back, let your guard down, and enjoy some cartoons, huh? These entities are known as the Putrid. They look like a decaying, bloated corpse of a morbidly obese human. The literal embodiment of decay and depravity. Mushrooms, mold, colonies of decomposer bacteria, and insect infestations are very common on the surface of their skin. Their smell is reported to be somewhere in between dead camel and living Discord mod. The entirety of this entity's distended gut and body is filled with a coiled and twisted mass of intestines. When this entity opens its mouth, you can see the tip of this pile of intestines resting at the back of its cavernous throat. These intestines are filled with rats, maggots, flies, beetles, and various other decomposer friends that are common in front rooms environments. If you think this is gross, I'd like to remind you that you are constantly covered in microscopic bugs. Don't like it? Too bad, you die without them. If a putrid spots a wanderer, it will frantically wobble its large, uncoordinated mass towards them. It can vomit up some of these decomposers to attempt to subdue the victim. If it can incapacitate or catch up to the wanderer, the putrid will then swallow them whole, where the ecosystem of decomposers inside of its body act like a digestive system, breaking the victim down for nutrients before spreading it throughout the putrid's body. While most of you were likely horrified by the previous description, I'd be willing to bet one of you sickos is confused and ashamed as to why that turned them on. This entity is named Sixarms, and it's attracted to stress. We are painfully well acquainted. Sixarms is a partially transparent creature which manifests as a tall, many-armed shadow. It has more than 6 arms, but since 6 is as high as the person who discovered this entity can count, that's the name. It is vaguely humanoid and emits distorted noises similar to that of a gas-powered machine. It has been observed moving through walls effortlessly, which may imply it is entirely non-corporeal. The more stressed a wanderer becomes, the more likely Sixarms will be to pursue them. It's recommended you calm down if you notice a darkening of your environment, which signifies his presence. Because he is pursuing you, calming down may be difficult. It's like how you gotta make yourself big to scare off bears. Like, that is not what I'd expect to work. Honestly, that sounds like the stupidest fucking thing you could possibly do, but everyone who doesn't do that is dead, so Yeah, sugar is also effective at repelling it. While this is a useful survival strategy, it's pretty mean to pick on someone for having diabetes. I don't think that's gonna age well. This meat is Gummy. That's the title. These are worms that look to be an assortment of regular gummy worms. They crawl around on the ground in a fashion similar to a regular earthworm. After a brief moment of wondering if I wanted to eat a gummy worm I found on top of a dirty, wet carpet, that obvious yes led me to discover that these creatures are edible. Not only that, they're pretty damn good. The uncooked ones have a texture and taste similar to raw beef, and the cooked ones taste like a steak. I like them both ways, but unlike the time my human friend and I had a raw beef eating contest and she demonstrated her regurgitation-based ranged attack, eating them raw is safe for humans. Despite moving like a regular worm, when dissected they have no internal organs, just more of that gummy stuff that has a consistency similar to animal fat. These creatures come from giant glob clusters of around 200 worms that burst and spread around. People ask why I keep coming back to the Backrooms. Lots of people think it's just for the money and clout, and while you're not wrong, the real reason I love the Backrooms is that there's no police to stop me. Oh yeah, also I pulled that Putrid thing out of my ass. It's not a real entity. Do with it what you will. Add it to whichever backroom site that you like. I don't give a shit. That's it for this episode. If you like this video and want us to come back to the Backrooms and do more things, make sure to like, comment, subscribe with all notifications enabled, or I'll take away your face.
Or him, I.